I was having sort of a crisis, experiencing a lot of depression and who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? Am I really happy? Where am I going from here? And so then I had met these monks.
Hi, I'm Ashleigh, and welcome to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. This is a place for the crystal curious, arcane-minded, and everything in the in-between. In this podcast, we will jump down the rabbit hole into the metaphysical, esoteric, occult, and spiritual realms. Nothing is off limits. I'm a mom, wife, an orthopedic physician assistant by day, and a seeker of all things spooky and kooky by night. I've spent my entire career in the medical field, but have always felt like there is more out there, and this is where we will explore together. We will have conversations with crystal healers, rock hounds, artists, musicians, spiritual coaches, magic makers, and anything woo-woo that strikes our fancy. Let's take our spiritual journey to the next level. So grab a crystal, pour a cup of tea. It's time to feel the Big Crystal Energy. Welcome back to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. I'm Ashleigh, and I have an extremely special and important guest on today. Her name is Stephanie, and I'm going to introduce her, and I'm so excited that she's here. Stephanie was actually my freshman college roommate. We met at the University of Kansas, and we had an instant connection, I would say. And she now resides in Denver, but she is just an amazing person. She is a mom, a wife. She runs a yoga center, and she's also a life coach. And I brought her on because I want to talk about her spiritual path, which I have been really inspired by more as I've gotten older and really come to understand probably some of the things that she went through to go down that path, because I know it's probably wasn't easy in the beginning, and also because it's just a little bit different than what we traditionally think about with spirituality. So Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us on the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. Thank you for coming on. It's so nice to see you after so many years.
Thank you. I know. It's amazing. But I think you're the same person. It's amazing to just
so are you.
And feel connected still.
Yeah, yesterday I had sent Stephanie a voice message. And when she responded back with a voice message, I hadn't heard her voice in such a long time, but she has such a sweet, such a sweet voice, and you have such a gentle, warm personality. And it just it totally brought me back to the day that I had moved into our freshman dorm the day before you arrived. And then I remember when you guys knocked on the door and opened the door, and there you were. And it was just yeah, I still remember that, seriously, it was yesterday. And it's amazing. So I just, when I was doing this podcast, especially last year, I was coming on and I was having all the episodes, just, episodes with me, but I knew that I wanted to expand out and start having interviews. And my podcast is very much crystals and magical things and all of that, but it's also about finding a spiritual connection and having just that connection to the universe. And for everybody, it doesn't come in the same way, right? So I just kind of want to have you kind of tell us about you and, just give yourself a little introduction here.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, about finding our own path. And I believe that, well, anyway, I appreciate that we were able to find each other and we were placed together as roommates. I was so grateful that there was another person that was vegetarian that I could live with. And then, yeah, it really felt synchronistic that we got to be roommates, of course. And yeah, I grew up in a Catholic family, and we were, church every Sunday and went to Catholic schools. And so yeah, it was around that time in college when I started exploring, of course, different beliefs and ideas that people have about reality, about universe, about divinity. And I think that because I was out of my family's domain, so to speak, that I felt more permission to be able to explore. And it was around that time that I really started questioning what I actually believed about life, and what resonated with me and what didn't. And
do you think that because I grew up Catholic as well, I didn't go to Catholic school, but I went through all of the sacraments and all of the things, and I know that for me, I just never felt connected to that. I would go to church, I would go through the motions, but when I would sit there and the priest would talk and things, it would never connect to me. So did you have a similar feeling, or what prompted you to start kind of searching?
Yeah. Well, I had more of spiritual experiences, and I can recognize that they're spiritual now as I look back, but I was having spiritual experiences in nature, and not necessarily in church, and not necessarily by reading the Bible or reading different scriptures. I think that the way that the things that I did learn as I was growing up, I appreciate them. Good rules to live by, good, general guidelines and understanding of things, and treating other people in a kind way, etc. And when it comes to actually having a relationship with divinity, I wasn't quite experiencing something significant as my own. So more, I was having experiences in nature, and I felt more connected that way. So, yeah. I also, when I started coming into the teenage years, I started recognizing certain things that I didn't like within Christianity, and looking at things and saying, that seems a little hypocritical, and that one I don't think. So naturally I was, identifying stuff that I wasn't quite sure about. So,
I recall me and you just going and walking out from the dorms and walking into the forest. And I remember us reading the Celestine prophecy and just all of this stuff, it felt like, I think that you were having a deeper connection with things than maybe I was. I was very, just in a moment of trying to figure out who I was and what I was into. And then I think you on the campus had met some people that you felt very connected with. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that and how that whole process ended up happening?
Yeah. So the first month of college, actually, it was in the beginning of September, that I met some monks on campus, and they're Vaishnava monks. So they're it's a branch of Hinduism. And, I was speaking to them, and then they invited me. They have this, a program at the park at the end of the week, which they invite all the students that they meet. And then I think they had some presentations with some classes too. Anyways, so I went to that, and they had this presentation about reincarnation and karma, and the self being pure spirit, spiritual energy, which is differentiated from material energy, and that the self is meant to connect with divinity and things like that. And it was funny because prior to that summer, before going into college, I was having sort of a crisis, experiencing a lot of depression, and who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? Am I really happy? Where am I going from here? And at that time, I remember specifically there was one moment when I was driving home from a party, we were, there was just a reckless party. And I was driving home, and I didn't feel very satisfied. And so I said out loud, because at that time I had already been reading different things, but at that time out loud, I said, okay, Buddha, Jehovah, Jesus, Goddess, I was listing everything out, Great Spirit, whoever you are, please just show me what I'm supposed to do and like who you are and what I'm supposed to do. And so then I had met these monks. So I was on my little quest, and I would gone to that park program, and I started reading I was already reading different things, but I started reading their books, and and then I just kept going with it.
Yeah, I do recall that. And I remember thinking like, this is me being 18 years old and just ridiculous and not really understanding and not even probably having any ability to ask the appropriate questions because I just didn't understand. And I thought maybe in my head, what is Stephanie doing? Who are these people? Yeah. Is this safe? Is this a cult? I mean, honestly, I would think all these things.
I'm glad that you had my back.
I was like, oh my gosh, she's going with these people. I don't know who they are. But you always seem very calm about it. Like, oh, they're very wonderful people. They're vegetarian,
Yeah. Well, I remember our hall, the woman that was in charge of the hall. Mm-hmm. She had, because I didn't have a car. We didn't have a car.
That's right.
And I wasn't familiar with the town. So I think I had asked her, where is this park? Because I want to go to this thing. And she's like, oh, I met them too. I'll take you. So she gave me a ride, which was great. I'm glad that she was there with me. Mm-hmm.
So then you started going to the park and you started meeting with them. And then how did, over time, do you feel like it was something that was quick for you, that you felt really aligned with this group of people, or did that evolve over time?
Yeah, it evolved. I mean, I was, and I still am very strong about being an essence and not form. I didn't want to join any religion. I still don't want to join any religion. And so that it was my search. It was my independent search. The philosophy I really liked, because basically, in Christianity, it's there's God, and it's God Father. He's Father, and then Jesus is the Son, and he's like the representative of God, and non-different from Anyways, there's variations in that understanding, but what I really liked in high school when I was reading about Eastern philosophy is reincarnation and karma. It made so much sense to me. It didn't make sense that we had one chance and that's it. It just doesn't make sense. So, and also like, why are some people born with this and in this place? And, and so when I was reading more about karma and reincarnation, it resonated as true. And I just couldn't live any other way than what mm-hmm. felt true. Mm-hmm. So when I met, anyway, the monk that I met, one of them, he's my husband now. But when I met him and I was reading, it was a perfect harmony between, yes, God is a person, and actually it's God and Goddess. It's a couple. They're like, a divinity is male and female. And there's karma and reincarnation. So for me, it was, there's personalism and there's karma and reincarnation. So it made a lot of sense. So and then it was all connected to yoga, right? So they had some people locally, a woman, her name's Gopi, and she was teaching yoga weekly on, just outside of campus, on the edge of campus at, like, I don't remember the name, but it was like some center. So I started taking yoga there with her.
So I know you say that you don't really want to follow religion, but what would you say, what practice do you follow specifically now? I mean, is it like a specific practice, or is it just a collection of beliefs and ideals, or how does that work for you?
So technically it's called Bhakti yoga. So yoga means to connect with the divine or the supreme. And then Bhakti is devotion. So it's connecting with the supreme through devotion. So it's actually considered one of the yoga processes, right? But from a more religious perspective, it's considered Vaishnavism, which is a branch of Hinduism.
I mean, I just think about you a lot because even in my own case, going from growing up in such a common, like, Catholic tradition, everybody knows what Catholicism is for the most part. Everybody's heard of that. It's accepted. And then to find a path that you feel so called to, but that's quite different than what probably every single person in your life knows or understands. I imagine that had to be challenging.
Oh, yeah, extremely difficult. I mean, fortunately, my family wasn't very dramatic about it. I mean, my parents were disappointed, probably worried and disturbed. My siblings were sort of just doing their own thing. And I think my parents at that time were going through something with their own relationship. So it was hard to even really put too much energy into what was going on with me. So I think that in the long run was probably a good thing. But yeah, they were worried. And even extended family were worried. But I had left St. Louis where most of my family was, and just, they kind of understood my nature anyway, was to just I have a very high need for autonomy. So they knew I was going to do whatever the hell I wanted to.
I understand that. I'm the exact same way. So can't hold us back. We're going to do what we want. Sorry if you don't understand.
I mean, and it's funny because later, my one of my siblings, my sister, she went through a whole thing too. She did. Yeah, she's with her spouse is a woman, so she went through her whole thing and did her experimentation and everything. So, I just did it first.
You just did it first. You had everybody's nervous system going crazy, and then your sister, she was able to come in behind you, and you already got everybody wound up, and then it was kind of easier. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I know for me, like, I just never really connected with Catholicism, or my mom was Presbyterian. I just never connected with that, and I don't really know 100% where I stand now. I think I'm still on this path of exploration. I think I don't have a title for myself. I just know when I hear certain things and philosophies, I kind of say, okay, well, this makes sense for me in my life. So I'm going to adopt that, and I'm going to take the pieces of this. And what's so interesting with all of my spiritual connections, I realize there are so many pieces of different things that a lot of things all kind of come together, right? So we use different words for very similar ideas quite often.
Exactly. Totally.
And I couldn't, to me, like my son, he's 8, he's asking me the other day about God and this and that. And it's hard for me to say that God can be just a man. I mean, because that's how most people think of God, as like this man figure. And I'm thinking to myself, well, God has to be something so much more than just a human man form. I mean, it just doesn't, to me, that just doesn't make sense. Like, so much stuff existed before even humankind. So how can it just be one man? One man, and then I don't know. It doesn't make sense. None of that ever really made sense to me, but that's like the norm of what to follow. So, and trying to explain that to a child is challenging.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, they're small, but
they have questions.
Yeah, but they have questions. I mean, if you think about it, just like I'm a person and I have different relationships with different people, right? Some of them call me mom, some of them call me boss, some of them call me sister, or I'm a daughter. So there's different relationships that are happening, and they experience me differently in that relationship. So similarly, divinity there's so many varieties of people that they're naturally going to have a different way of relating to divinity or experiencing divinity or seeing divinity. So yeah, why not allow people to just have that experience in their variations? To me, it doesn't make sense to impose, a certain kind of framework of my way of seeing divinity is how everyone should see it. That doesn't make sense to me.
It never made sense to me either. And I think that's just such a big message that I want to share with people, that you have to truly find what's right for you. And it's hard sometimes when you come from a background in a family that's very committed to one way, and there can be a lot of opposition when you go a different way. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, you have to do what's right for you. You have to do what you're happy with, because you have this life that we're here right now. And, it's not always going to make sense to other people, and that's okay. If you're a good person and you're putting good energy and messages out into the world, then it should be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how I've been feeling about it. But I know that, sometimes when I post certain things online or whatever, my aunt or whatever, whoever, they'll go to my dad. Oh my gosh, what is this weird witchy stuff that Ashleigh's posting? Is she being taken over by evil forces? I'm like, why don't you just call me yourself? And see, do I seem like evil, like scary? I don't think so.
Right. Well, it's funny, and it's kind of what you were saying before, that there's a lot of these things actually intersect. Even you'll see, like with some Christians, they'll do certain ritualistic things, but but they'll critique someone else's rituals, or someone will critique their rituals, but it's all the same. It's some, yeah, like I saw some woman, she said she was pouring grape juice around her property line, and it's like the blood of Jesus will protect you, right? So and I was thinking, how is this any different than like some whatever rituals with a pagan or a Wiccan?
No, seriously. I mean, it's so true, right? So I mean, I have friends that are super Christian, and then they get kind of weirded out when I post pictures of me like doing something with like a candle and incense. And it's like, but you guys have altars in your church. Why is it when I say altar, for me, that sounds like super scary and, evil. But then when you guys say altar in your Christian church, it's okay. But it's the same thing. It's just a stand where you put your sacred items.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't understand. It just... I don't know. I think to me, it ends up being kind of, comical, but yeah, it is what it is.
And in essence, it's the same. In essence, everyone is interacting or relating with divinity in some way, right? But the form is different. Mm-hmm. Like I just put fluorite on like all four corners of our house the other day, and I saw this little like reel of this woman putting grape juice, and I thought, what's the difference?
What's the difference? My thought is, my ultimate thing that I always think, like, if you have a practice that works for you, mm-hmm. then it works.
Yeah.
Right? If it makes you feel any certain way, if it makes you feel happy, if it makes you feel protected, if it makes you feel joyous, then it works, because so much of it is in our mind.
Totally. It is. I mean, and I guess from where I come from my perspective, that as the self, the soul, the person is evolving from lifetime to lifetime, I may need different forms or ways of seeing things to help me grow. So okay, this is where I'm at now. This is where someone is at now, and they might need Judaism to help them evolve and grow their consciousness. So if that works for them, like, great. What I'm more interested in is, are we going upward? Are we evolving upward?
Well, I feel that right now as a country, we are not. But that's another conversation. So tell me, Like, what does a day for you look like?
Well, yeah, I go in the early morning, like half the week. I'll go early morning. I would say I wake up around 5 a.m. and then I go to the temple, and there's certain practices that I do at the temple, like meditation, and then there's like a worship ceremony that I do, like puja, and that's a couple hours that I'm there. Then I'll come home, and then I get breakfast ready for the kids. I usually work on a few things for the center, for the community yoga center. I work on stuff with that, and then I go back to the kids, and we homeschool. So I've been homeschooling. My daughter's pretty easy with homeschooling, but my son, I have to really focus him in.
Wow, you are a brave woman.
I know.
Wow.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's a little tough.
Oh, I don't know. That makes me start sweating thinking about homeschooling. But my kid's 8, so it's really hard right at this age. So, yeah. And he has ADHD, like severe ADHD. So,
yeah, okay, yeah.
I'll put that better put that in the hand of the professionals at this stage. But
yeah, yeah, it's good. It's nice. It's flexible. They'll make breakfast sometimes, and we do different outings and stuff. But that's 4 hours, and then the afternoon. Then I work mostly on things office-y type things for the center, where I'll meet people, and then and then I get back home and work on clean the kitchen.
Just regular life
laundry,
stuff. All that glamorous life stuff.
I know.
That never ends.
And then, yeah. And then
So what about your husband? Is he pretty involved in, like, what does he do? Yeah,
he helps with the yoga center, and then he helps at the temple. He's like managing at the temple, but he's not much of a manager. He's more of like a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
At the temple, he does classes, and he helps with some of the worship and the ceremonies. And then at the center, at the yoga center, he teaches hatha yoga, like vinyas, flow, several times a week.
Wow. So what's his personality like? Is he very like just so I don't know if I've ever met him. So does he have a similar personality to you? Because I feel like your house would be so calm.
Really?
Well, you have like a very calm energy.
Do I? Yeah. It's funny because once I get into manager roles, people think I'm so fiery.
Okay.
But I mean, what else am I supposed to be as a manager?
Well, you have to be. You have to stand. You have to assert, who you are and what you need. I mean, otherwise people push you, People will take what they can and they will mow you down the chance that they can get.
Oh, man. I tell you.
Even in a spiritual space, really.
Totally. Actually, even more. What I find is it's a lot easier to coach people, to do life coaching, like these seminars. People are actually coming because they're doing their own work. They're doing their stuff. They're working on themselves. And at the yoga center, people are like all happy to go to yoga class and do these sound healings and all this stuff, right? But at the temple, I noticed that because it's very religious, then people kind of lean on the religion part and escape their own personal accountability. And so there's a lot of hiding in the religious space. So for me, I find it more challenging because there's more expectations for each other. People are holding each other to those expectations. Then they judge each other. When there's a lot of judgment, then there's low trust because people don't feel safe to be themselves, right? And if they're honest about what's actually going on for them, they'll be judged. So then there's not actual closeness and comfort. People feel comfortable with each other. So actually, I find it to be quite messy.
See that? That makes perfect sense, the way that you explain that. I mean, but don't you feel, I do feel, I mean, especially within the Catholic faith, I feel like a lot of people hide behind their religion. Especially just even in the people that I've grown up with, their parents, their parents were so devout, but then they would come home and they would be these like completely different people that were horrible. But it's like, but you're so whatever, but then you're actually not like that. Mm-hmm. So, they put that mask on that they're that person. And then that's part of one of the things that I just always had a struggle with, I think.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people that I meet through our community center, our yoga center, they're spiritual, but not religious. And I would say that's me. And mm-hmm. I know that, I help at the temple, I help manage. And more I see if it's Catholicism, if it's another, type of Christianity, if it's Judaism, if it's this Vaishnavism, Hinduism, humans are so, they will escape in whatever little crevice of the universe to avoid mm-hmm. them being responsible for their own selves. Mm-hmm. It's happening all over. Yeah.
Of course.
But that's why, I mean, that's why people are like, forget religion. I can't, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I want to actually live what I believe. I actually Absolutely. Embody the philosophy that I believe in.
Mm-hmm. I feel that. And I just feel like, for myself that once I really just started, just leaning into just all the different connections that I see and feel around me, and just feel connected to the source energy or whatever it may be. I mean, I just feel so much just a more calm person, a more happy person, without the boundaries of something, without having to say, oh, I'm this, I don't know what I am, but it just feels so much more freeing, and it feels so much more like myself. But that's hard to explain to people sometimes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that the self, because my understanding is that the self is meant to be, we're naturally free. And then when we have all these subtle expectations that you should be like this and you should be like this, it's like putting that free, open self into some kind of box. It feels restrictive. It feels cramping, and it's not really meant to be what spirituality is.
Yeah, and I always felt like a bit, I guess now looking back, I'm like, I guess I've always felt like a bit of a rebel. Like I just always wanted to do my own thing. I'm probably like the black sheep of my family, even though even though I still have a very traditional lifestyle, and I still have a very traditional career, but trying to do something different, especially with my podcast and things like that. Just, And
it seems like that your intention isn't to be a rebel. Your intention is to follow what resonates for you and makes you feel grounded and happy and healthy and nourished, right? And,
yes.
And it's not the same as many people.
Yeah. And that's okay. We're all, I think a lot of part of this and trying to start this specific space is just to try to also connect with other people that have similar feelings, right? That connect to things in different ways, whether their feelings or beliefs are similar or different than mine, but just to have conversations with different types of people that come from different paths of life and have different things that they're into, because there's so many interesting conversations to have. And I think, in our day-to-day life, oftentimes, I know for me, I go to work, I see the same people every day. Most people, all they want to do is complain about their lives. They want to gossip about people. And that just gets so boring.
Yeah.
But that's the pattern of how most people are. And I just get so tired of it. But then it's also hard to find people that want to have higher level conversations, because either people don't really understand what you're talking about, or they're not comfortable with it, or maybe that triggers something in them. And so this is, for me, like such a beautiful way to connect with people that I can have those conversations with, whether they live close to me or they live wherever in the world.
Yeah, you're not, your soul needs food. That's not soul nourishing to, gossip and complaining about life. And it's not nourishing yourself, your essential self.
No, it's not. And I mean, unfortunately, it just feels like that's just the norm for so many people. They get up, they go to their work, they hate their job, and they want to go on their lunch break and complain about their job and complain about their life, but they don't want to put the work in to make it different, right? So it's like, yeah, there's certain things about my career and things I don't love, but the only way that it changes is if I change, if I find the ways to make those changes and make that work environment better. So, I make my workspace, like my desk space, I make it, specific for me so that when I sit down in that space, it feels like it's my space. And then I embody that energy that I want to provide for my patients every day, right? So I have these rituals that I do in my car before I even go in to have that energy. And people feel that, right? So when you create that energy for yourself, the people all around you feel that.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. You're creating your reality. You're creating what you need to make you feel happy. And when you're happy and satisfied, then you influence others in a positive way. And that's really personal accountability. That's what it comes down to, is that we actually have the power. We actually have the ability and power to change things in our life, to influence in such a way to actually make ourselves happier and find what we need. And like you starting this podcast, you doing, on the side, you have this normal job, whatever, which I remember you studying so hard for in college in biology. But yeah, and so now you're creating this for yourself.
Yeah. And I think especially as moms or, just people in general, I mean, especially as moms, we can get so busy being in that role as moms, as wives, as having our careers, that sometimes we lose track of having things for ourselves. So, I mean, I think it's just opened up another whole side of me, just actually saying, I need something to create for myself. Do you feel like because I know you had mentioned that you do life coaching. Do you feel like that's something that you enjoy for yourself?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, similar to what you're sharing about how you're not satisfied with these basic things. You need something that's more nourishing for you spiritually. And so you're creating this for yourself, and that's nourishing you. So similarly for me, I was seeing that, I'm an introvert. I don't really want to have small talk. I don't like just this like whatever unconscious living. And so getting into life coaching, actually how it happened was people were approaching me to talk, and I could see they just needed to be heard. And so I met a woman who was doing these personal development seminars and life coaching. And I was pregnant with my second child, and I had a 2.5-year-old. And this is where I was feeling I need some sort of more substantial nourishment. Even my spiritual practices and my, I would say, so-called community weren't really nourishing for me, because there was still gossip happening. There was still, just like focus on externals and all this. So the life coaching really helped me embody and integrate the philosophy that I believe this, but really bringing it into my life and applying it in a practical way. So yeah, what I love about life coaching is that people that come to me are ready for change. They're ready to actually take responsibility for their life. And that's the only way that we can really grow, is when we're ready and we accept that I'm able to move the material energy with the determination of my spiritual self.
I just find that having a coach is so helpful. I mean, I've had coaches for different things over the years, and I have a coach right now that is helping me with just gaining clarity on where I'm going. And having that person in my life, just in my corner to have conversations with, is so helpful, but then also in a sense to just sort of hold me accountable to certain things. And I mean, I think that life coaching is such an amazing thing that people do now. I mean, because when we grew up, you didn't hear about people having life coaches. Like, what is that? It just sounds fake, but
No.
it's so incredibly helpful.
And even going to therapy was sort of like, you really have to be mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no real middle ground. And then going to speak with someone, you would just get like advised. People would just give advice, which wasn't really helpful for me, at least.
And I love what you said when you said that a lot of people just want to be heard, because I truly believe that that is so much of it. I mean, I think about even when I go to my regular job, I mean, a lot of times people come in and of course they have their medical issue, but oftentimes they just feel like nobody's hearing what they're saying about it. They're just, you have this, and the book, the book and the medical that says that we treat it this way, but then they're having like all these other issues surrounding it, because not only is their physical body injured, but they're emotionally injured. They're mentally, it's causing strife for them mentally. And so while I'm not a therapist, I can identify those issues. And so a lot of times I just let people talk. I just let them say what they need to say. And at the end of the visit, maybe I haven't changed their medical plan in any way, but they feel better because they feel as though someone actually listened to what they were saying and they were able to express, what it is that they're going through. And that helps more. Oftentimes that helps more than the physical problem.
Yeah. Yeah. They've actually done studies on empathy. There's studies on empathy that show that anyone that's in a helping profession, that when they have warmth and empathy and genuineness, those qualities are the factors that set good helpers apart from others.
Yeah.
They even studied like malpractice among doctors, and they said that those that were charged with malpractice, the majority of them were lacking in empathy.
100%. I've heard that too. I mean, you can be the best provider medically in the world, but if you don't treat your patients the way that they want to be treated and you don't give them that bedside manner that they like, I mean, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's like part of the whole reason we go into healthcare, but then because of the way that the system is a lot of the time, we get so beat down by the system. We get, they force so many patients on us and they force so much that we get so burnt out that we forget the humanity of it all. And I think, really learning to re-tap back into why we're doing it in the first place is so helpful.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying about like being a mom and just seeing that you needed to nourish yourself. And at a certain point, in order to actually care for others and help others, like they say in the airplane, put your mask on first and then on the child. And then there's a quote by Carl Jung that the unmet lives or the unlived life of a parent is actually the worst thing for a child. Is that if a parent is not living the life that they want to live, this unlived life, apparently at the cost of caring for the child, it's actually the worst thing that you could do for your child. And the best thing that you could do is nourish yourself and be what you need and do what you need to be able to actually be a good parent, to actually be a good, doctor, to actually be a good helper.
I totally believe that. I mean, it's so true. I mean, we often are told that mothers have to, to be the best mother, you sacrificed yourself, you put everybody else first. But honestly, you should come first and you take care of yourself first, because then you show up better for every person in your life. Mm-hmm. When you put yourself last, then you're just totally run down. You have nothing to give, and everybody in your life sees that.
Yeah, exactly. Which comes down to too is our own spirituality. Like you're doing, like you're following this. This is what's making you happy. And if you didn't do this, we have different parts of ourselves. We have our physical body, we have our mental, emotional body, and then we have our spiritual self. Like we're meant to also feed that and also take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember before I embarked on when I really got the call to make a change, I felt like I should be happy. I have everything in life that I want. I finally got, it was a struggle to get my second baby, but I finally have him, and I have the house that I wanted, and I live where I want, and I have this job that pays me what I feel that I deserve. And yeah, I'm like miserable, and I was like, what's going on? I woke up and I just was like in the car, and I was just having massive anxiety, and I was just feeling so lost. And I mean, sometimes it just takes these like one small little nudge from somewhere, the universe, whatever it is, to put you on the right trajectory. But you have to be open to that, right? And you have to see that sign and then take it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's kind of part of how it happened for you. I remember that, I mean, I might have this kind of wrong, but I remember there was like a summer where you went and were kind of you were going different places and exploring different temples or something. Yeah. Is that right?
Yes. So we were roommates the first year. The second year, I believe I had an apartment outside of campus. And then with another friend that was, remember Erin? She was in the hall. Mm-hmm. So she was in the hall. So I got a place with her the next year. And then on the second year, no, actually it was the third year. On the third year, I was really questioning what I was doing. Like, do I really want to study architecture? I don't know. Maybe I should just stop, but my parents are paying for this. It's a lot of money. But at a certain point, I withdrew from all my classes, and then I went traveling. So I was going to different temples in the US and just having some temple experience and spiritual exploration.
Do you feel like that was when you finally just really found your path?
Yeah. I was in Tucson and San Diego, and then I went up north to Northern California, and then down to Denver to Colorado. And yeah, around that time, then I felt ready to commit to an actual, practice. I had been mostly exploring and trying different things, practicing different things. But then around that time, I thought, okay, yeah, I'm going to actually start to every day do this meditation and like that. Yeah.
And you already knew your husband, but were you guys in a relationship at this time, or did that come later?
We were in contact with each other. And then at a certain point, then we of course it was me, but it was me that brought it up. Of course. I say, of course.
What do you say, of course?
Because he's such a subtle person.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm more straightforward than him. So I was like, okay. So we've been in contact for a while. And I'm kind of getting the feeling like maybe there's a little more here, but we haven't talked about it yet. So basically, we either need to talk about it or just stop being in contact entirely.
Because you were interested in moving the relationship forward.
Honestly, I just felt that some of the messages were not clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think that it was even an option.
Oh, but then he was like, Stephanie, you're the one for me.
No, he was like, oh my God, she's called me out.
So how long have you guys been together now?
Let's see. We were married in 2004. So
long time.
It's been a while.
A long time. We're getting old now.
Yeah, I know, right? I have great.
No, we're not. I'm sorry, we're not. Look at us. We're still so young and youthful.
I feel like the same person.
Well, isn't that it? I mean, I do too. I was laughing because I was talking with some of my coworkers yesterday, and I was like, I feel like I'm kind of regressing because I'm going back to all the things that I liked when I was younger, all the things that lit me up when I was younger. And now I'm starting to do all of those things again. But part of me feels very connected to that. But then also I feel like, why am I acting like an 18-year-old again?
Well, you were definitely on a responsible route for a while. And I think, especially when it comes to work and parenting, I know for myself, I set aside myself quite a bit. No, now that my children are a bit older, they're at this phase that they have more autonomy and just even be able to leave the house without having to get someone to watch them. Whoa, that was another level of freedom I just couldn't even see past,
Mm-hmm. I feel that.
We got there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we're definitely in the trenches of it now. With a 2-year-old, we can't.
Yeah.
They're always with us. Our children are with us all the time.
Yeah, and depending on how much of a support you have to call someone, pay them.
Yeah, and it's all expensive.
Yeah.
It's all expensive.
It's a lot of sacrifice having to set these things aside. So for years, I mean, I feel like that the first 3 years for every child, the first 3 years. So for me, having them back to back, almost back to back, they're about 2.5 years apart.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. It's like pregnancy, you're eating for 2, you're sleeping for 2, right? And then, I was breastfeeding, and it's like,
yeah.
And then they've got to have someone full time with them for at least the first 3 years. So I know for me, it was a good 7 years that felt putting myself aside so often to the point where it felt crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, we want that, right? Because we want the children and we love them and we love having them, but it's also so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard at times, so I feel that. I totally feel that. No, I mean, and part of me is like, yeah, it's hard not having a lot of support around here, but at the same time, I enjoy being with them, and I'm at work a lot. So, the time when I'm not, I like to have with them, but I have like my days off and stuff when they're not around. So I do get some downtime, especially growing up as an only child. It can be very hard never having quiet time, alone time, because it's just always so loud. Yeah. So having these days where I'm just like trying to decompress a little bit feels a little bit rejuvenating. So that's always nice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of sacrifice. But I feel like now I'm just like building this momentum to, now my kids are getting a little bit older and I can just try to start getting this stuff going for myself again. And it just feels really aligned. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I know that for the children to see that, for their parents, for their mom to be feeling fulfilled and really living in her authenticity it's moving for them. It's important for them.
It is. I mean, my son, he's always asked, inquiring these questions. Well, Mom, are you really the boss of your podcast? I'm like, yes, I'm the boss of it. Nobody else. It's mine. Well, YouTube doesn't own it. I was like, I mean, you don't own YouTube. I'm like, okay, well, are we going to have this conversation of like, who owns what platform? No, I don't own all of it, but I own the name. Okay. I'm like, well, don't you think it's kind of like, don't you think I'm cool? No. Okay, fine. I'm not cool. Whatever. All right. Well, I want to ask you a couple other just fun questions here at the end to wrap things up, because I've taken up a lot of your time today already, but I just want to know, do you have like a favorite spiritual or self-care ritual that you like to do?
Yeah. So there's something that I do the first thing when I wake up in the morning, and I call it the scan. So first I scan my physical body. So I go from my toes to my head, and I just check on each thing and notice. And any sensations or pain or anything. And then I do like a emotions scan, and I check and see what emotions are there that are coming up. And then I do a spiritual scan, which is, how do I feel right now, as where am I at in my relationship with divinity and in my life, right? So I just check in. I do that in the morning and the evening before I go to bed.
Love
and
that.
that really grounds me in, to just being self-aware. And then I practice mantra meditation. So I have a mantra which I say either out loud in a whisper, or I do it mentally in my head, and I count that, and there's a certain number. And that really helps ground me. Those are my two favorite.
I love that, because it feels like they're very attainable. There's something easy for you to do every day, and it's just a self-care ritual that doesn't require a lot of preparation. It's just something that you can get up and do, and you can do at night, and it's really nice.
And reading is so important for me too. Reading spiritual books, reading, different things that stimulate my intellect and keep me in this wonder and this.
I agree.
Wonder.
100%. Do you have a favorite book, or is there a book that you feel that has been really influential in your life?
So many. Oh my gosh. I love reading. Well, I just finished reading the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and I love the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and it's my favorite because it's like all the basics are there. The self is spiritual, and you have an intellect, you have a mind, you have senses, and your self is meant to be the master, like the presiding master of the mind and the senses and different practices like that. So that's my favorite spiritual book. Yeah. I really...
Sorry, is that kind of a foundation for your practice, that text?
Yeah.
Because I remember you had that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember you reading that and having that for so many years. So
it's still the same now.
Yes. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, so that's what I mean. Like that's a very formative book for you. So I appreciate that. If you could live anywhere in the world for a year, where would it be?
I'm not sure about this.
Or how about this? Because I love travel. Is there somewhere that you are just would really love to travel to?
Right now, what's on my bucket list is Japan. I haven't been to Japan.
I feel like I have so many friends that are going to be going there within the next couple of months, and my son wants to go to Japan so bad. And I said, well, honey, that's just not a place that you just pop over to. Yeah. That requires a lot of planning and a lot of saving. But it would be amazing to travel there. A long, long travel to get there.
Fly over a big ocean.
Big ocean. Yes, I'm obsessed with, I don't know if you've been following any of my social media stuff, but I'm absolutely obsessed with Iceland. So we're doing we're doing a wedding vow renewal in Iceland in June.
Wow, cool.
With just me and my husband and the kids. It's not super formal, but I have a photographer, and we're just going to frolic around in front of some waterfalls and say nice things to each other and recommit ourselves to each other in front of the children. And I think that will be just lovely.
Yeah.
And I told my husband I'm going to make him wear a Viking hat, and he's going to be the first Filipino Viking of all time. I bought him a Viking hat for his birthday. I was like, you are packing this. You will wear this in some of the photos. Yeah, so I'm so excited for that. That's like my hugest bucket list item, and I'm finally making it happen this year after obsessing over Iceland for over 20 years. So
cool.
It's going to be here soon. Yes. Okay. So I heard you mention fluorite around your home. Do you have a favorite crystal? Do you?
Yeah. I like
Yes.
Labradorite. Mm-hmm.
You love fluorite?
I like Labradorite.
Labradorite. Oh, gosh.
That's my favorite.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. I have so much Labradorite everywhere. Yes, it's so magical.
Yeah. Yeah, I put fluorite around for my house on the corners for protection. But Labradorite is my favorite. Definitely.
What about it makes you feel connected to it?
It's kind of mystical. It feels really mystical, you know? It just comes off as like some like gray or whatever, grayish color. But then behind that is this sort of shimmer, which it reminds me a lot of spirituality, because it's something that you can't necessarily touch or see, but it's there, and it'll flash, you know, there's like flashes of it. So it's very a mystical stone.
I feel exactly the same way. All right, my friend. So I'm going to wrap things up, but thank you so much for being here. Let's say I have a listener and they're just fascinated by you as a person or your life coaching. Is there a way that someone could connect with you?
Yeah. My email address, you can email me.
Okay, I'll put her email address, the one that you shared with me. I'll put that in the show notes. They can contact you. And then, yes, so thank you so much for coming on. It's been so beautiful to reconnect with you after all of these years. You know, Stephanie and I have not chatted face to face really in probably over 20 years. So it feels very exciting and also almost just kind of surreal. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your life with my listeners. And I'm glad that we were able to connect on this like very kind of emotional and spiritual level, because I feel like we always had that connection even since way back in the day. And it's just, you know, lovely to be able to come full circle and reconnect in this way after all of these years.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Have a beautiful day. Stay magical, friends. Thank you so much for jumping down the rabbit hole with me. If you connected with this episode in any way, I would love it if you could share it with a friend. Also, please tag me on social media. I'm at mystical.mama.ash or at Big Crystal Energy Podcast, mostly on Instagram. It helps so much getting my episodes out there and finding more magical, kooky, and spooky friends. Sending you all Big Crystal Energy. Cheers!